I love the pictures, but I have only really shown like the actual, like, these are the pictures to two people, which is my best friend Danny and my mom.
Okay.
And then everyone else, it's like I still have that kind of a barrier, I guess, up about it. So the whole idea of it being a publication and the project, I think, I don't know, it's so hard to put into words because, like, I don't know what like right away when you were talking about the project, I knew, yeah, it's something that I want to participate in, but the only reason that I thought that I wanted to participate in it was because you think about, like, growing up and how, stereotypes and the things that affect who you are, I guess. I don't know. So, and with wearing a prosthetic, I thought, this is definitely something that makes me different, makes me unique, and so I want to participate because I'm different, because I'm unique. But it did something totally different afterwards. It put me in the perspective, like, and you can relate, having a daughter that is just going through puberty.
I know, I cry when I talk about Morgan in this too.
And thinking about, like, it put me in more of, like, looking at things from my mom's perspective. And my mom is a awesome woman, and, like, I never, like, looked at my childhood and felt like I ever was lacking in anything. They always gave me everything I wanted, and I wasn't spoiled. We didn't grow up rich, but we didn't grow up poor, and I never felt like I ever needed anything. But I just felt average in that respect. Whereas with this project, it made me look at, like, Annabelle and think about, what if this happened to her? Like, what if I realized all of a sudden that she was going to have something that was going to be so life-changing that she would have to modify everything for her whole life? How would that make me feel as a mom? And I put myself in my mom's shoes. And it made me realize, like, how much my mom did for me. Because I remember, like, the first time, when we first realized it, we were a little older than the girls are, almost 13, and realized that things were different. So my mom went out and got little shoulder pads and put them in my bra. And I went to school that day. I don't know if I already told you this story, but I went to school that day, and in the lunch line I realized that it had come out of my bra and it was sticking out. And one of the girls that was standing there was like, "What's that?" And I looked down and I was horrified. Like, my shoulder pad must have come out, and I went home and I just cried. And my mom just took it and she took all of my bras and she sewed them in. So then they never moved. But as I developed and grew up, back then they didn't have the, breast cancer awareness. They didn't have vasectomies the way that they do now. They didn't have prosthetics the way that they do now. So my mom had to go and find, all they had back then were, like, if you were going to make a doll and a doll was going to have, breasts, then that you would attach it like that, but they were like a hard foam, and so something like that doesn't form in your shirt or in your bra the way that it's supposed to, and so you have to find different bras. You have to take a lot of time and find different things that are going to work, and then you have to find different shirts where they don't, where nobody can tell, because as a teenager, when you're 14, 15 years old and you're going through first dating experiences and all of those things, I mean, it was huge. And so all of this just put everything into perspective and just made me realize like how much my mom went through, how much emotional trauma she probably went through, to just knowing that it was something that I was always going to have to struggle with. And so through the whole thing, I just started to realize that, and I called my mom, and my mom isn't a real affectionate person, you know, she's a real independent, strong woman. And I called her and I said, I just want you to know how much I appreciate everything that you did. Like, I didn't realize how much you did. And I never appreciated it until now. What a huge, like, awakening to realize that, I don't know, having to look at my daughter and to think, what if she had to deal with this? And so I called my mom and I said, thank you so much for everything that you did. And she's like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. I never thought that I did enough. And so, I mean, to think that something like this would open such a channel like that and give me such a different perspective, you know, but we talked about how, you know, we went to plastic surgeons, but at 16 years old, and plus back then, you know, at 16 years old, the things that they had weren't like they are today. And so then at the point that I became older and could have had that plastic surgery and it was better, at that point my mom had helped me to adapt to it and to, you know, to just find ways to conceal it, find ways to accept it. I don't know, it was just cool because my mom and I like had this really huge like opening and talked about it, and it was like amazing. Honestly, that never crossed my mind when I started thinking about this project. Like, I just thought I wanted to participate because I knew that it was different. I knew that it was something that I have made adjustments to conform to society's idea of what is normal. And when you're growing up, like, and even in magazines and everything else, you know, when you think of women, you know, it's always about, you know, their boobs, you know, and when you don't have, when they're not normal, it's a weird, it's strange. But the other thing that happened that made me think about it even more and about all the things that my mom did was when I went to get covers. I went and ordered new covers for my prosthetic. And when I was in there, the gal, I was looking and they had all these bras and swimsuits and things that had places where you can put the prosthetic. And I'm like, wow, they make these? And she's like, yeah, they've made them for a long time. You've never used them? And I'm like, no, I've had a prosthetic since I was 13 years old. It never occurred to me that they would have stuff where you just stick it in, because when growing up, like, I could never wear a swimsuit, like a normal swimsuit, because it would show. I couldn't wear, I don't know, my very best friend growing up, we're not really close anymore because I just thought about this. For her wedding, I was supposed to be one of her bridesmaids, and she chose strapless dresses, and she and I had the biggest argument in the dressing room about it because she didn't understand that I couldn't wear that, and she thought that I was being selfish because I didn't want people to know. You know, you're 19 years old and it's her special day, and I get it, but this is something that's personal to me. This is something that if I can conceal it, I don't want everybody to know. Mm-hmm. You know, and unless you're like that person dealing with it, I don't think there's a lot of compassion. And so, I don't know, so many different emotions, like just in things, a perspective of how people look at things like differences, and how if you don't deal with it or it's not your problem, people don't understand. She and I have not been really friends since then.
Is that the fallout of your relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Isn't that crazy that that would be the demise of a friendship? Because I have a deformity that I didn't want everybody to know about, and she liked a certain dress. But it's been cool that, I mean, to think about like how much my mom did. I mean, that part of it, if nothing else came out of it, that relationship and that perspective that I got of everything that my mom did was huge. And the fact that, you know, I called my mom and we had this big crying session and talked about it, and, you know, and how she felt like she didn't do enough, and I didn't realize as a kid how much she really was doing. But to look at it from how I would react if it was my daughter. And just like, and it's allowed me a little bit to have, I don't know, I have a story, Annabelle. I guess it's allowed me to realize that, I don't know how to put it, like, allowing Annabelle to be comfortable in her own skin, instead of trying to control how she feels in her own skin based on how I think that people are going to react to her, trying to shelter her, and stepping back from trying to shelter her and allowing her to just be.